It's a delight to be here, and I want to say a bit, because we have parents in the room and people who are not particularly familiar with universities, I want to say something about universities and why they matter. And of course it's about ideas. And how did we get to this iPad today? Well, I use an iPad for almost every aspect of my job, but to the iPad that Sveta and her team have done. And of course it was a connection to an issue, and it was an issue with the child in this particular case. And this child was going to be having learning difficulties because of this diagnosis of autism. And so the idea was, how could we solve this problem? And that's what universities do. We take ideas from the community and we look for solutions, and then we take the solution back to the community. And it sounds really fabulous when you say it like that. So let me explain how some of this idea started. So I was in my office one day, and this was at Curtin in Western Australia, and Sveta phoned and said, you must come over. I've designed this brilliant table which is interactive and will solve all the problems of autistic children forever. And I went over, and it was pretty ugly. It weighed about 400 tonnes. It was very big. It had at least 14 plugs, so it was an occupational health and safety danger to Sveta, never mind to any child. And I remember thinking, oh, how am I going to tell her this isn't going to sell? That nobody will want one of these things in their kitchen, because you wouldn't be able to lift it up, and it would probably kill some child if it fell on them. Anyway, we moved on, and through all of the relationships of the idea, clever idea with a clever person, and the connections you make in the community. And sitting next to Sveta, of course, is Silvana Galia from Autism West, and she'll explain some of the things. Meeting a group who then proceeded to give all the advice, the education psychologists they needed, took that idea to a piece of equipment and to a program which is affordable and accessible and enables parents particularly and their children to have some respite from something some might see as a burden and others see as a gift, because the child is the high end spectrum and clearly has much to offer the world. And so, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things we do is, how do you make sure that the idea does connect? And how do we make sure that people know about the idea? And so part of Deakin Week this week is to say, here's what we've done. Here's where we've got to. It's not the end of the journey. There's at least another 4 or 5 steps that have to happen as we test and we trial and we look at what this means and how this piece of emerging technology helps people. It's not about the iPad. It's actually about the children, and it's about their parents, and I noticed grandparents in the room, and it's about grandparents. When a family does have a child, you know, a highly loved and desired child, and they need support, what do you do? That's what we've done with Prada.
It was a very slow, hard road, you know, with many failures and a big table, as Jane says. And I think the hardest part of this road was trying to, and Silvana will vouch for this, is trying to meet a clinical psychologist I understood. So I must have talked to like 40 and not understood them. And then finally we met one that we really, really clicked, and I think then Toby fell in place. And our initial aim was just to help a bunch of parents who are our colleagues. We were too slow, we didn't help them, but hopefully we'll help other kids who are in the same kind of situation.
You know, we're saying to therapists, in no way was this developed to replace the therapist. It was to supplement and give families the tools and empower them to be partners in the journey, not feel like they have to wait and see and be told what's next.
Really the touch user interface is quite crucial. The iPad is wonderful for that. If any of you have got young kids, I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and she's just you know, very comfortable opening up my iPad and looking at all kinds of photos she probably shouldn't be seeing. And it's amazing to see a very young child using this touch interface. And I think that putting some of this into something where there's a mouse and a keyboard will actually detract from the experience quite dramatically.
I'm a parent of a child with autism, and I've gone on the journey and done all the therapy for Julian since he was 2, and we've used the model, which is applied behaviour analysis and discrete trials, that TOBY is based on. And to give Julian 5 hours of therapy, I'd have to put 10 hours of prep in order to record, develop and prepare all the stuff that you needed to do the actual session. So TOBY's going to just revolutionise and save time and change the way people do their therapy. The other side of TOBY is that to get a 2, 3, 4-year-old to come to the table and want to do work when you're putting, cards on the table that doesn't look interesting is not easy. You're chasing the child around the table. With TOBY, you bring TOBY out and they see a computer and they run to the table, and they don't see it as work now. They see it as something fun and interactive with their parents. So in that alone is a huge difference in how it's helping families. Another big thing that it's doing is teaching parents to be the teacher, teaching parents to be the trainer. So they're building their skills in being able to work with their child. And then when they go to see their therapist, they're able to work in partnership with the therapist and get more out of that therapy and move the child a lot quicker along their journey in their therapy sessions.